you just get, it's every 5 years you got to get more.
Bro, she walked like this.
Yeah.
Like everything was like this.
Yeah.
It was like she had a pole from her head
Is
all
she
the way
still
to her
there?
butt. No. She was like this. So
But other than my back, dude, I had shoulder surgery and knee surgery, and those motherfuckers aren't 100% either. I think at 50, when you're 50, I don't think you ever recover 100%.
Are you still on the TRT?
A little bit.
What about stems? Did you say you're doing stem cell too?
No.
You got to do that.
I'm about to get
I
cells.
guarantee you,
Yeah.
if you did that, they'd fix that shoulder. Guarantee you.
I'm about to get in my foot for my plantar.
You still have plantar fasciitis?
Horribly.
Are you still running?
Yeah, I have to.
You have to?
I just love it.
Why don't you get one of them zero runners? Have you seen that thing that I have out here?
Is it a Woodway?
No. It's a like a.
It's weird.
It's
Yeah.
sort of like an ellip.
Sorry.
Sort of like it's a like a.
It's weird.
It's
Yeah.
sort of like an ellip.
Sorry.
Sort of like it's a like a.
It's weird.
It's
Yeah.
sort of like an ellip.
Sorry.
Sort of like an elliptical machine, but you're actually doing it as a runner.
The movement
is the same as running.
Well, that could be cool.
I like it.
I swim a lot.
I just got it here.
Oh, wow.
Try it.
Yeah, I'll try it.
out
I like to
here.
run outside though. I like hiking.
I
and
do
shit.
too, but I
have
mix
to
it
be
up.
outside.
I mix it up with that. I mix it up with the air runner, which is a runner that you push yourself. You propel it
That's
yourself.
like a Woodway. Yeah, it's like a tank tire.
I'm back to
Tank
swimming
track.
now.
Man, when I saw this, it summed up Joe Rogan over the last few years, that did. Because I don't believe Joe Rogan, when he first started out, he was like one of the lads. He used to have the early podcasts with a few people over, Eddie or whatever. Do you remember the early ones? Proper everyone just talking and chiming in. Now, though, his transformation's complete. He's turned into a right cock. A right chauvinistic, arrogant cunt. Joe Rogan has. Proper. He's fully transformed. There's no way. Back 5 years ago, before all the fame came, before all the money came, because let's get it right. Back in 2013, no one knew who Joe Rogan is. In fact, the only people who knew Joe Rogan was the UFC. The UFC made his career. Before 2013 or 2011, in fact, before the UFC, no one knew Rogan. The only way, or the only reason people started knowing Rogan was when the UFC exploded in around 2009, 2010 time. That's when Joe Rogan started becoming more known. Then he started his podcast in 2013. After he had that failed show, Joe Rogan Questions Everything. After his failed show, which by the way, he got on the back of the UFC anyway. Listen, Joe Rogan weren't doing squat in his comedic career before the UFC hype brought him up. Do you understand that? Because let's not get it twisted here. Joe Rogan's career, he's a nobody. And that's what frustrates me, because I hate seeing people leverage power, especially when their personality's changed. As an example, some people are just out and out cocks. They're cocks when they haven't got any money, and they're cocks when they have got money. Joe's worse, because before he had the money and the fame, he wouldn't have done that. There's no way. Back in the early days, if Jamie had said something, they would have had a conversation, yeah? He wouldn't. Who does he think he is, you big juice head, yeah? Cut down the TRT. It's funny that you're actually talking about TRT, to be fair. If you cut down on the testosterone, Joe Rogan, you won't be raging when a man, all they were doing was having a conversation. It's pure conversation. What, can't Jamie have a voice? We never hear from Jamie. Yeah, he's there every day, but we never hear from him. Oh, don't tell me, Joe. Your opinion's so valuable. Your opinion's worth more than everyone else's is. Jamie shouldn't have said sorry, but I understand Jamie has to say sorry, and that's quite a sad place. Like, imagine being on a podcast with your so-called friends and having to apologise for saying your opinion. When Eddie interrupts Joe, he doesn't look at him like that. When Brendan the fake-ass career Sharp interrupts Joe, he doesn't look at him like that. So why is Jamie being treated as a second-class citizen for? I just don't like that whole. I don't like people like abusing their power and trying to punk them online. Like, of course, did Joe not think how bad that's going to look? That completely mugs Jamie off, and the fact that Jamie felt so insecure that he had to say sorry, that proves the relationship there. Clearly, it's a I'm your employer, I'm your boss. Joe comes across as his proper, yeah, I smoke weed, and he comes across as a proper, like, easygoing guy, but he's clearly not. He runs this shit, listen, he runs that JRE ship as a pure financial operation. And that's what I mean by when I talk about Joe changing, because back in 2013, when the podcast started, 2012 when it started, if Jamie had said something, it's not like he went crazy. All Jamie said was, yeah, it's this, that, the other. He didn't. He just said a few words and had to apologise for it. Joe looking at him. Who do you think you are, you big testosterone mug? Yeah? Cut down on the TRT, you big juice head. That's the problem as well. Never mind the money and the fame which has gone straight to his head. Also, the juice. Joe Rogan's juiced out of his mind. That's the problem. That's why he's always raging. He's always looking for a fight where there ain't one. Yeah? Joe, cut down on the juice. Yeah? Don't let the power go to your head, because all that power, that's Dana's power anyway. Yeah? The only reason you're known is because of the UFC. Your comedic career was going nowhere before you attached and clout chased on the back of the UFC. Same as your podcast. Your podcast weren't nowhere until you got on the UFC's bandwagon. That's all it is. The only reason Joe Rogan's known is because of the UFC. Yeah, he has no career in his own right. All UFC clout, and that's fair enough still. I give him respect for that, but don't be making out you're the big don, as if you've created pure value out of your own personal premium. No one knows you if it wasn't for UFC. And like I said, I can't bear seeing people mugged off or treated like lower class citizens. Who are you, Joe, to be looking at people? What? So what if Jamie has an opinion on something? Can't he speak his opinion? So what if he interrupts you? It's a podcast, you muppet. That's what people do on podcasts. When something comes into their head, when an idea comes into their head, they say it. Your opinion ain't worth more than no one else's. But that's the problem. You've got a bit of money now. You've got a bit of success, and it's all gone straight to your head. Because, as I keep mentioning, he wouldn't have never done that back in 2012. He wouldn't have dared do that, because that's a muggy thing to do. Why would you mug off one of your best friends like that for? On international TV as such. Proper weird thing to do, but that just goes to show how high he values himself. He believes his opinion is so valuable. It reminds me of, and this is a great example actually, but it reminds me of when, do you remember when Eddie Bravo, more recently, whenever Eddie Bravo brings up the conspiracy stuff, Joe Rogan says, oh yeah, we're not talking about it today. We're not talking about it today. What do you mean we're not talking about that today? That's another thing you've changed on. At the start, this podcast was all about looking at different, or talking about all sort of things, yeah, equally. Now all of a sudden, it's all about psychedelics, and no more about conspiracies. Anytime it comes onto conspiracies, like all of a sudden he flip-flops. 1 minute the moon landings didn't happen, now he thinks they did happen. Now all this kind of business, very odd behaviour. Now he thinks 9/11 wasn't a fix and all this kind of stuff. Very odd behaviour. It's all gone to his head. He believes he has a few. This is the problem with Joe. He has a few famous people on. He has a few so-called, or he has a few pseudo intellectuals on his program, on his dead-ass podcast, and now he believes he's absorbed their intelligence. He actually thinks he knows a lot about anything. Joe don't know squat about squat. All he knows about is juicing out of his mind. Yeah, that's all he knows about, and it just frustrates me because he's such a fake person to have changed. Bearing in mind, it's only been 6 years, and it's not as if he started the podcast at at a time when he was young and impressionable. He was already 45 or 50 when he started the podcast. But to see how fame and money has changed him into a proper juicy, mardy, self-absorbed person, it's unbelievable stuff. Eddie Bravo needs to go on there, put him in a choke, and choke. I think that's what he needs. If you choke the oxygen out of his head, maybe that'll reset him back to before he was a big deal. Because before he was a big deal, he wouldn't be doing none of this behaviour. Oh, we're not talking podcasts today. Oh, sorry, we're not talking conspiracies today. I'm not having that today. Oh, we're not doing this today. We're not doing that today. Jamie, don't speak when I'm speaking. What are we at school? Or are we on the podcast? Which is it, Joe? Juicy, yeah? Cut down the juice, that will help. Number 2, don't get too gassed, because Dana made your career, UFC made your career. And if, by the way, Jamie, if you ever hear this, if you've got something to say it. What's Joe gonna do? Joe ain't gonna do it, probably. Well, you might lose your job, but still, what's he gonna do? Big juice head. Big, massive, big mardy juice head. Yeah? Got so much anger inside him. That's because of the juice, Joe. If you turn down your test levels, you might not be so angry when a man, or when one of your friends, one of your best friends, speaks on a podcast. Imagine that. Can you imagine one of your best friends actually speaking on a podcast? How crazy would that be? How mad would that make you feel if one of your best friends on the podcast started speaking? What? Madness. And it just goes to show the weakness of Joe's personality to have changed. His whole personality's changed and folded over 6 years. For what? For the money's changed him. He's completely sold out. Joe the sellout. Joe the psyop. Yeah, Joe the shill Rogan. He's actually earned that name as well. Joe the 9/11 shill. Joe the flat earth shill. Joe the moon landing shill. These are all things he's shilled on. Next it will be, to be honest, I can see it now. Soon he'll be shilling on weed. Soon he'll be shilling on psychedelics. I can see it coming now. The same way he did before. He was game, set, and match on the moon landings. Then he sold out. He was game, set, and match on 9/11. Then he sold out. And all the other stuff. Now he won't even entertain other possibilities. Because he's got a bit of money now. Now he won't even allow his best friend to speak on a podcast. And it's not even... He didn't even... For me, it wasn't even the fact that it was the way he did it. He just looked at him like that. There's a proper... That's a proper sunning move, isn't it? That's how you sun someone, looking at them as if you're as if you think you're God. If that was me on there, I'd be like, who the fuck are you looking at like that, you mug? I'll slap you in your bald head. That's another thing as well. He's bald as well. No disrespect to bald people, but he's got a bald man syndrome there. Got proper moody, testosterone, juiced attitude there. You need a good slap on your head. I tell you this for free. If I was on a podcast with my best friends and anyone ever looked at me like that when I gave my opinion, I'd have got up and slapped him on the head right on the podcast live. And what would he have done? He wouldn't have done a damn thing. He wouldn't have done a damn thing. 'Cause if he did, I'd have chipped his chin with a left hook, and that would have been it. He'd have been sleeping. I'd have put his big juicy ass to sleep, no doubt. But anyway, in conclusion, Joe, if your juicy ass ever hears this, wind your neck in. Remember how you used to be, and try and go back there. You're not so self actualized that you're above everything. You're not God. So just go, as I said, go back to how you was before. Be more open-minded. Don't shut down the conspiracy talk. Remember how you used to be. That's how we want you to be. Yeah? And it's not like trust me, you haven't changed for the better. You've become more mardy. Like, look at who do you think you are looking at people like that? That irritated me, that did. If you're lucky I weren't there. I told you before. Your bald head would have been slapped on live, and we'd have seen, never mind being frustrated because you've been interrupted, you'd have been embarrassed that you got slapped on your head and you couldn't do squat about it, you muppet.